So, a short reflection and Bible reading to accompany our communion service on Wednesday, the 19th of August. I'm David Gillard, and I hope this finds you well. A reading, Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. Jesus said, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the morning he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He said to them, 'You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right.' So they went. He went out again about noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon he went out and found still others standing there. He asked them, 'Why have you been standing there all day doing nothing?' 'Because no one has hired us,' they answered. He said to them, 'You also go and work in my vineyard.' When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, 'Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first.' The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those who had been hired first, they expected to receive more, but each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. 'Those who were hired last worked only 1 hour,' they said, 'and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day.' But he answered one of them, 'I'm not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Why are you envious because I am generous?' So the last will be first, and the first will be last." So, the story that Jesus tells about the kingdom of heaven, what it will be like. It's a place where hard work to build the kingdom is required. It looks unfair. Those who worked hard from the start of the day are valued as much as those who are clearly not so skilled and only worked a couple of hours. It's a place where there is grumbling between workers, and where the landowner simply responds to the grumbling, "Hey friend, I'll do what I want with my money." Jesus was always good at telling stories which were unsettling. We often like to think of Jesus as meek and mild, as gentle and soft, as the miracle worker who sets up a good party. This parable portrays a different image of God. We have here the landowner, an image to portray God as clearly being in control, as having a task which he needs people to complete. That task is to work in the vineyard, an image which portrays the Christian life as hard work, as us having to do stuff to help the kingdom flourish. There's a sermon series in that alone. What does Christian living really and truly mean? I imagine we have reduced it somewhat to make it sound easy, whereas, for example, loving your neighbour as you love yourself is actually pretty hard work, and I don't know about you, I certainly haven't got it fully worked out yet. But back to the reading. The kingdom is a place where value is put on good work, and also on those who struggle to work. Each are treated the same. The skilled worker who worked a full day in the heat, just think of last week of that heat, gets the same as those who worked just a couple of hours. The reason those workers were not picked, we can only assume, is that they simply were not skilled as the others. So the kingdom of heaven is a place of equal value. Again, we can go in several directions with this image. All are equal in the kingdom of heaven. All are welcome in the kingdom of heaven. All are rewarded the same. The image says something about the promise of heaven for all, about how someone who has been part of a church community for just a few months, for example, to be valued as much as someone who has been involved for years. All are valued in the kingdom of heaven. Then there is the authority of the landowner. It's my money. I'll pay what I want to who I want. An image of the authority and power held by the landowner. God, we can draw from this, has authority and power over us. Now, that is a thought that is not often reflected on in our day and age. Humanity much rather thinks about individualism and about what rights we may have. Yet here is an image of God holding power and authority over us. But please note, the landowner uses his power and authority to make sure that the undervalued workers receive the same as those who are more highly skilled. And however unfair we feel that might be, God loves us all the same, no matter how much we feel we may be better than others. And it's interesting, God calls us friend. I am struck by the image that shows that God has power and authority over us. Like I say, we don't often like to think of that, but the reality is, if God truly is God, then of course he has power and authority over us. God may be creative with his power and authority over us. We may not always understand or value it, but thank God he discharges the authority and power with love and mercy and grace. Friend, he calls us. So where have we got to with this story that Jesus tells? It is disturbing. It provides images of God which certainly in our day and age we may not like to think about. But God does have authority and power over us. He is God. It is a story that portrays following God as hard work, yet one for which the workers are all rewarded fairly. I wonder how these disturbing images challenge you. They certainly challenge me. Yet they must also fill us with awe and wonder that God rewards us lovingly. All are valued by God. You may find this parable challenging and rewarding as you continue to think about what it says to you today.